I think we are recording. Good morning. Welcome to Dancing with Life, a podcast for joy. My name is Jessica of Vidable, and I am so excited to bring you a second season of insights, coaching, and interviews with some of my favorite people. And so I wanted to start with a little bit of an update, like where you been? Your last podcast was in 2001. It is now 2004. What has been happening in your life? So I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll talk about new insights that I have and where you may be in this season of life. So that is the general theme for today is season of life. Welcome to season 2 of the Dancing with Life podcast. And here we go. It's worth mentioning seasons of life is similar to a lyric from a Rent song, the Broadway musical Rent, and it's called Seasons of Love. And how do you measure a life? There's 525,600 minutes in a year. So how do you measure your success or your failures or your shortcomings in that span of time? And a lot can happen in a year. I just think a year ago today, it's such a different time of life. So especially with children, especially owning small businesses, especially with puppies, there's so much life that happens in each actual season. And then there's other seasons. So let's go back to 2001. And my father, my daddy, he passed away on October 21st, which was just about a month after I last did a podcast. And he had been ill for quite some time. He had Parkinson's disease. And we used to fall, he'd fall out of bed, they'd have to call the rescue in the middle of the night. This was horribly traumatic for my mother and also my brother and I, who would be called over to help get him up off the ground. And it was very, very stressful. And he eventually went into the nursing home because he had fallen and broken his hip and was immobile. He ended up being in the nursing home for 3.5 years, which is a horribly long time, especially when he was our most active parent. Between Brian and I, our 4 parents, he was the most active. He played tennis 3 days a week into 60s, 70s. He walked the dogs every day. We always had at least one dog. He would go for sometimes 2 miles. He'd walk around the local pond and he would walk around the block and he'd always take a walk after dinner. And he was super, super active. And he got this super crappy disease where his body just wasn't working anymore. He couldn't control his body. He was very stiff. He was very rigid. And it was truly a blessing when his spirit left his body and he was able to move on. And this also lifted a huge burden off my mom. She had been his caretaker. She was a nurse for over 40 years on payroll. And then she was a nurse not on payroll for another 10, 12 years while my father's disease progressed. And she constantly was at the nursing home. She was working with his medications, with his, infections. And anytime he had a bump or bruise, she'd be helping. So there was a lot of um, stress and relief that was lifted off of her when he made his transition and she didn't have to go in every day. But that was still another loss for her. And so because she lives with us, I was helping her and working with her every day to process our grief and share our stories and love and appreciate the man that he was while he was here, and also deal with this loss of him not being here. And there was amazing outpouring of support from community, friends and family, all sorts of people that knew him and loved him and remembered him. And it was really, quite, it was a great life. It was a life that was measured with a lot of love. And it was, really incredible. So that was October 21st of 2021. And then within the week, like 5 days later, we had this horrible storm here on Cape Cod where the power was out, the internet was down, TV was down for like 3 days. It was really bananas. And right before the storm, I saw a post on Facebook that someone was fostering two puppies, and these were the most adorable puppies. They were black and tan puppies with the little brown eyebrows here and black stripes down their noses, and these little sisters who were rescued from a litter in Georgia that needed a home. And in the process of grieving my dad and remembering, how much he loved animals and walking his dogs and this kind of haphazardly assessing what was important in life, I decided that I needed these puppies. So I called around to find out who knew this girl and what was going on. And it took a few days, but I found her, and we and went through a process of about 2 weeks, and we were able to adopt these puppies. And having two puppies at the same time is a full-time job. So I got right into this full-time job of cleaning up excrement in and outside the house all over, went through the winter with them, and absolutely awesome for the kids to have these new pets in the house to take care of, and a lot of responsibility. But between the grief of my father and helping my mother and now these puppies, my bandwidth that I once had was really, really short, or at least, overflowing. My plate was still over full. And in the middle of November, I was having incredible heart palpitations. Like I felt like someone was standing on my chest with a combat boot. And I was wondering if I was having a heart attack. And so I went to the hospital and they ran all the tests. I was there for about 4 hours, and they diagnosed me with anxiety and grief. And I was like, oh, what? That is so very interesting that, I'm a life coach, I'm a joyful movement teacher, and I am having anxiety, and I thought I was having a heart attack. So this was a wake-up call to slow down and kind of reprioritize what are the things that I absolutely need to do today. I need to get my kids off to school in proper fitting clothing and footwear and shoes. I need to have dinner available when they come home from school. We need to do homework. And my plate was full. My plate was full each and every day. And we went through the winter like that. And got through that season of just of hominess, being home, being more of a homebody, taking care of business at home. And then in March of 2022, I actually did my booty yoga training, and booty yoga training is phenomenal. It's 3 days of doing yoga, and we got to take turns leading, and we got to listen to all different kinds of music and have that experience. And I earned my certification for teaching booty, and I went about sharing this joyful movement practice with other studios in our area. And so that was a super fun time of life. I made some new friends, and we spent time, doing choreography together and playing, and it was a beautiful season of life and a lot of movement. So the last couple of years have involved, a couple of things that were very important to my dad was, having dogs and walking the dogs almost every day, year round, and moving my body. I actually went back to playing tennis as well, which was not something I thought about for 25 years. From the high school tennis team to my mid-40s, I decided to go back to tennis. And I played in the summer just a couple times a week. And now I'm actually on a team. I have two teams, and the play starts next week for the next season of this tennis team. So I am happy to report, my dad was onto something that, being out in nature and walking the dogs is very healthy and happy. And then tennis is a kind of a competitive thing that's also involves finesse and skill and timing. And it's completely different than teaching Nia or teaching booty yoga. There's no music. And it's my job to bring the laughter and the jokes and say, oh, fudgicles, if I make, flub an easy shot or something. And people get a kick out of me being on the court because, joy coaches, that's what we do. We bring our joy kind of everywhere. So I'm not sure I mentioned, when my dad had passed, I had been in a mastermind group. It was like a 6-month program. And that's how I started the podcasting journey. And I interviewed some of my friends from the program in my earlier podcast. And then, that program was over. So not only did, my dad die and go through this major transition in our day-to-day lives here, but I didn't have the support of these people who were working on growing their businesses and working on growing their presence. Some people are podcasting, some people are doing online courses, some people are doing live webinars. There's all sorts of fun things we can do now with the internet, and to find people that, we can help and we can share joy with. And uh, that support was missing for me. So podcasting wasn't a habit anymore. It was something that I was out of the habit of doing. It wasn't in the day-to-day schedule anymore. Fast forward to September of 2023, and I was back in a small coaching group, and I found the woman posted, "Oh, I'm from Maine." And so I put in the chat, I'm like, "I'm from Massachusetts. We should be friends." Because, there were people from all over the world in this group. And so we started talking, and we are literally sisters separated at birth. We are so ridiculous sometimes on the phone. We share books with each other. We meet at least 2 hours a week. We get on a Zoom and we sit and we go over like what we're doing in our business that week, and we are accountability partners and besties, and it has been an unbelievable journey. And so we're actually going to record a podcast together tomorrow, so you get to hear from her. And I find, podcasting is a great way to speak to you without being interrupted. As a mom of 3 kids, my husband and I just roll our eyes sometimes. We just literally can't get a sentence out without somebody needing something or the dog scratching at the door or something like that. I remember 3 kids and 2 dogs. I should mention, I have been married to an amazing chiropractor since 2009, and our 3 children are now 13, 11, and 7. So they're very busy. They have their friends, they have their activities, they've got school, they've got homework, all of them. And we're really dancing with life each and every day with the same challenges that everybody has, right? There's, the things you need to do for yourself. You need to brush your teeth and take a shower and wear clothes that fit and, work out. And then you got to, make some money, you got to pay some bills. We got all these things that we have to do day to day that get done. And then sometimes there's a season where, oh, it's a new thing. It is spring here in Massachusetts, and spring for a lot of us is cleaning up the yard. We spend a lot of time. We burned this weekend. We were picking up sticks, raking leaves, and burning because we had a deadline. May 1st was a deadline for burning, and so we needed to get that done. And then we were thinking, do we need to do any new plantings? Because this would be the season of plantings as well. So that is the season of spring here in this time. And it's also the season where things start wrapping up. There's going to be a voice recital, and there's going to be a piano recital. And 6 weeks, there's a dance recital. And so those things are kind of ending. And then it's summer. And summer is a totally different season. But the spring is a really good time for me to come back to what I really love to do, which is teaching and sharing and telling stories. And it is just a gift to be able to tell the truth about life and look at it in a fun and playful way. And that is really what Dancing with Life is all about, because none of us are going to not experience death of a loved one. None of us are not going to experience, coming and going of pets, right? Some pets are a major part of our life. Our children growing up, maybe leaving the nest someday. I have several friends that have kids going to college. And this is a lot. It is not only the application process, getting the letters, meeting the deadlines, but then going and touring schools. And like, does this feel good? Does this feel like the place I want to spend the next 4 years? or the place I want to spend $80,000 times 4 years or whatever. It's a really big decision. And what can we afford? And, can you work? Can you work some more? All these negotiations that take place when making a decision about going to school. And I don't need to make those decisions this year. Thank you very much. We are working on our other decisions here. So, what we're going to do over the summer months. So, I think that is about all I wanted to share with you today. Just welcome back to Dancing with Joy. Look forward to more stories, more lessons in living fully and enjoying life. My name is Jessica Avidable, and I look forward to talking with you again very soon.